worst show of all time.
That's definitely not possible.
Bold. Wheel of Time exists. Bold.
1 out of 10.
Cowboy Bebop live action also exists. Real bold statement. Seriously.
Now, that was the only 1-star review of Trigun on IMDb from the username
I hate Trigun.
Hentai Makes Me Happy BTW.
No.
I was hoping it was going to be like Trigun Triggered or something like that.
Let's start the show. Hello and welcome to Spoilers Intended, a podcast about series and films. I'm Ryan, joined as always by Andrew.
Greetings.
And Steven.
I'm going to have to start looking at the usernames on these reviews.
I know. I've never
thought about it. No.
I need both of you to show me your usernames right now so I can see it, make sure it's not one of you.
It's Hentai Lover 23.
You think I have a user
No, it was
ID on
Hentai Makes Me
IMDb?
Happy BTW.
By the way.
It was all one word too, so I didn't catch it at first. And I was like, man,
Wait
there's
a
only
second.
this 1 star is like 1 sentence. How the next one's up's like 5 stars, and I'm like, I can't do that. How can I make this? Oh my gosh, the username.
Well, hello there.
Everything is explained all of a sudden. In this episode, we're reviewing the second in our series of our space cowboy anime trilogy, Trigun. Real quick reactions. How does everybody feel about this anime? Steven, go.
Of the trilogy, this is my bottom runner. This is third place. Now, bronze medal in this competition is not a shameful thing.
For sure.
Yeah.
These are very different shows. And for people that may not have listened to our first one, we reviewed Outlaw Star. Now we're doing Trigun, and we're going to do Cowboy Bebop.
Yeah, because basically this is considered the holy trilogy of
The
Space
Holy
Cowboys.
Trilogy, the Holy Trinity.
Holy Trinity, whatever.
I like trilogy
Space
better.
Cowboy
Name of the
shows
Father,
because
the
they all
Son.
came out in 1998.
Power of
Basically
Christ.
within 2 seasons of each other. And
The spike and the Gene Star one. Sorry, continue.
but yeah, so we wanted to do all
Spike
3 because I feel that you can't do one without talking about the other ones.
Sure.
So here we are. And then you're asking me.
how
Yes,
how I
and
like
so
it.
now I will transition to Andrew.
So
do you like Trigun?
That's the thing. I don't think that you can really compare any of these.
They're very different shows.
They're very different
It
shows.
becomes very subjective, right? When it comes down to how do you feel about it? Well,
Yes.
of the 3, is this my least favorite? Sure.
Well-
Does that make it bad? No.
And like I would say Trigun and Outlaw Star have more in common than Bebop to each of those.
absolutely, yeah.
Because in Trigun
Yes.
you have the I just blanked on the name of the bad guys, the group, the
Gung Ho.
the Gung Ho
10-7.
Guns.
Oh,
And then Outlaw Star.
Outlaw Star
I
has
was
the
thinking on 10-7. I was
Yeah.
like, nope, that's Outlaw
Yeah,
Star.
Gung Ho Guns.
So you have the Gung Ho
10-7.
Guns.
It's a very similar format for some of the plot.
Some of it.
There
yeah.
are similarities, more similarities between this and Outlaw than
Yes.
Bebop for sure.
Right.
But I love the show.
Including, if you listen to the dub, at least 2 characters in the
Are overlap.
Well, they're also there is just Gene Hawking's voice in this,
Yeah.
or Jim Hawking's voice in this with just like random kids or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, come on.
It's kind of like, I mean, because definitely around that time when Toonami, where Funimation was the one that was doing all of the localization over
There
here.
are only so many
There's only so
English
many
voice
voice
actors,
actors.
yeah.
It's really fun if you watch the Berserk anime from 1997. In the dub, you can hear Goku just around, and
Yeah.
in the bloopers for the dub, the Guts'
Guts,
voice
yeah.
actor's like, all right, so who's Goku?
Which one of you is Goku?
Yeah.
They were having a lot of fun back then.
But yeah, no, I love this show. This is
Yeah.
definitely one of those where I've actually probably seen certain episodes of this more than I've seen Outlaw Star.
Ooh,
Right.
spicy.
Because there's some really good episodes. So
There are, yeah.
For me, quick, I love this show. I loved it when it first came on back in, we'll get to that, 2003 in America. It's just really good. I think definitely compared to Outlaw Star, you have a little more comedy. I think in this one, a little.
It's
different.
It's different. So, and I know I said this on Outlaw Star episode, but basically, I always look at these 3 shows to basically be where Outlaw Star is the fun, Cowboy Bebop is the vibe, Trigun is the story.
Okay.
See, I always look at it as Outlaw Star is the
Adventure.
naive setting out for the adventure.
Yeah.
Trigun is the adventure, and Cowboy Bebop is the PTSD.
I mean, sure, but
Yeah, that works. Either way, let's get into a plot summary. Trigun takes place in the distant future on a deserted planet, which is called Gunsmoke, by the way. I found that out while doing research because I don't think they
didn't know
ever
that?
say
They don't say
Gunsmoke.
They never say the planet. It's
Yeah.
really that's from the manga for the pretty
Okay.
much because it's basically like Trigun Maximum Planet Gunsmoke or whatever.
Gotcha. Yeah, because when I was read that, I was like, "Is it called Gunsmoke? Like the old '60s Western show?" Yeah. Vash the Stampede is a gunfighter with a legend so ruthless that he has a $60 billion double-dollar bounty on his head. Entire towns evacuate at the rumor of his arrival. However, the real Vash the Stampede is not the same man that rumor portrays him to be.
That's pretty accurate.
I had to
Not
go.
giving anything
I will
away.
say though that summary gives away a little bit too much of the sci-fi setting. I think it's better experienced as you watch the show.
That it expands itself out
Yeah.
as you go. Yeah.
Meaning that it's a deserted planet.
No,
just the fact that it's
just
sci-fi.
that it's sci-fi.
Oh, gotcha.
Because it's not clinically like definitively sci-fi from the outset.
Yeah, it pretty much switches about a little over halfway through.
It switches earlier than that.
Well, it has hints.
The plant episode's
Okay,
like
yeah,
episode
sure.
8,
Seven.
7, whatever.
Anyways,
Actually, 6. I lied. It's
Well,
6.
way to be wrong.
actually,
Down, nerd.
he pushed glasses up on his face. He doesn't even wear glasses. It was incredible to
Just pushed
see.
it right into my head.
He
That's
pushed
such
a
a
second-
classic anime move. Just
He pushed a second pair of glasses into the current glasses. What's happening? All right. This aired in Japan from April 1st to September 30th in 1998, but it didn't release in the U.S. on television until
2000.
Cartoon Network on Adult Swim, March 31st, 03 to May 13th, 03. So there was a VHS and DVD release before it hit
Yes,
Adult
there was,
Swim.
and that's where I watched it from.
right, yeah.
Right.
So my first college roommate was obsessed with Trigun.
Yeah.
But he and I were not roommates in 2003. So I was doing that math. I was like, wait, hold on. He had a freaking wall scroll
Yeah, 'cause
of Vash. And
it
stuff.
The wall
yeah,
scroll, that
because
took me
the-
back.
It used to make him so. Sorry, George, if you ever happen to listen to this for some reason. It used to make him so mad because I'd be like, so is his name Trigun? No, it's Vash. But then why does it say Trigun? Because that's the name of the show.
But why?
I don't-
But he only has
why?
one gun.
That'll come up in trivia.
Yeah.
Eh.
So fun story about Trigun, and the reason why I've actually seen a lot more episodes, like certain episodes, more than I have of like a lot of
Catching
Outlaw
on the
Star stuff.
Toonami reruns.
No.
Oh.
So this was back in the unprotected time of the internet, to where.
Whoa,
Thought that was going somewhere completely
No,
different.
no, this is going exactly where you think it is. LimeWire and Kazaa.
Oh yes. Speak the dark magic.
This was when basically like you could just download effectively anything.
Sure. So there was more torrents of this
Hold on.
than
this is
It was still
hold on.
illegal, still very
I'm
illegal.
gonna actually this is not torrents. This is peer to peer. Which
Oh.
torrents are still technically peer to peer, but
Pardon
you're going
me,
through like
ma'am.
basically a
Oh
third
my
party.
gosh.
LimeWire
Would you like
and
to speak to our
Kazaa.
manager?
LimeWire and Kazaa were basically direct peer to peer, so you could basically get anything.
Sure.
Mostly it was either computer viruses or
People's home movies.
Yeah, not good stuff.
Not
But-
things you wanted. No.
Yeah, so Trigun was the first anime that I downloaded off of LimeWire at the time, but I could
That's
only
the version
get it.
we watched for this episode. It was wild.
Yeah.
So I watched it on Hulu. I didn't watch these LimeWire editions that Andrew had.
I don't
watch
have
it on
those
the
versions
secret
anymore.
server.
Okay.
But basically,
The FBI
you
may
could
have
only
destroyed them.
get like certain episodes. So I've seen like the Murder Machine episode where Wolfwood gets introduced, like probably 100 times at this point because
Right.
I only had like 4 episodes of Trigun.
So you just watched them over and over.
and I just watched them over and over.
That's
and
why it
over.
doesn't have anymore. You wore out the data and the bits and the flips. Yeah.
And then I remember like post graduating high school, I finally got basically the whole series that I could watch.
Right.
And then I watched the whole thing. I'm like, oh, this makes so much more sense now.
Now, I mean, don't get me wrong. I would feel like it would be challenging if you just said, okay, I'm going to have like 6 episodes of almost any anime, especially if they're not in order.
Trigun was particularly confusing though.
Well, especially if you had like one that's after the jump or something like that.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like Outlaw Star, if you got a first couple episodes and you got kicked down into the
it's probably- yeah, it's
late
about-
20s,
yeah.
you might be like, well, what the heck's going on here?
I mean, there's a few of the early Trigun episodes that could stand alone.
Yeah, they're just kind of, they're not even bottle episodes. They just
so long
exist.
so long as
Yeah.
you stay in the front half of it, you're pretty safe. It's when you have most of the front half and you get one from the later, like, what the heck?
So so talking about Trigun,
Yu-Gi-Oh, is that you?
This show definitely has a lot going for it. I think one of the biggest things is the story is honestly generally very compelling. You have really great character arcs for your main cast, and
it's a very interesting and different story and main character than most.
It is, and now because of that, Vash definitely takes some getting used to. And I think there's definitely a learning curve if this is like one of your not say your first anime, but like one of your early
exposures to it. Yeah,
he's an anti-hero.
Well, not even
in a lot of ways.
A little bit, but it's not even that. It's really just he just kind of goes like he goes 90 to nothing in a lot of different scenes where like it's very serious, very comedic, very serious, very comedic.
Yeah, So for me, it was the first anime that I had watched that had that kind of a manic switch back and forth between comedy and ultra emo,
super serious,
and just middle ground action. It would like oscillate, and so I loved it though. I appreciated the novelty of that versus like the other stuff I'd seen at the time,
like Ninja Scroll or
Akira. I think
something.
if you're familiar with say like One Piece at this point, or not One Piece, sorry, One Punch Man, get the right P out. If you're familiar with One Punch Man, that transition going back to this isn't going to be nearly as jarring.
Yeah,
because that plays the same kind of game of ultra serious.
Yeah,
to comedy.
It kind of waxes and wanes a little bit.
It really prepared me for Full Metal Alchemist.
Yeah,
where like that one does another kind of similar thing of even the original, not
jumps,
just Brotherhood.
Yeah, it jumps quite a bit.
It goes from like really serious to like chibi art style, ultra like comedic.
Yeah, Trigun's a good primer for a lot of that because like if you watched Outlaw Star and that was your first time watching it, it's very like it plays it very straight.
It does,
and it's still a lot of fun, but this is comedic.
Right. Yeah.
Well, where I was going with the anti-hero bit is when you look at Vash as a character, like the silhouette, the lone gunman, Wild West style, like bit of Clint Eastwood.
You think mercenary
with a bit of like a vampire hunter look to him, right?
Yeah, with the red trench coat.
Yeah, and the glasses, the hair. You would expect this to be very, very grim
and
like
violent.
him to be a very dark and violent character.
Yeah.
And he's just not.
Yeah,
he's basically the anti.
But I think
of that.
that's the beauty of it is that he's so not that.
Well, he's a cinnamon bun.
Well, and that's what really I think drives a lot of the story and the character arcs that happen throughout the show. And I think one of the biggest things is whenever you're watching the show for the first time, it's a very slow burn to get to the very interesting story beats. Just because like the first 4 episodes are, they're kind of bottle episodes where it's laying down the groundwork for character depth later on, but you don't notice it just because they seem kind of silly and nonsensical.
But the thing about those early episodes, I think that's good is that like if this is your first time watching it, it doesn't throw you in the deep end immediately. It's a very easy way for you to go, oh, okay, so he's kind of like. The funniness is that he's this goofball. He's really funny,
but he's still competent at what he does.
So you start grokking the idea that like, oh, but he's actually a really good shot. Like because at first outset you're almost thinking like
he's just very lucky.
He's a total like buffoon. And he's not good, and then you start to understand like, oh, there's another layer here. He's acting like a buffoon sometimes because he's
so good.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things too. Like once you're so far beyond anything around you, like how would you act?
Right.
Yeah.
Goofball. Why not? Just have fun with it.
But yeah, as your point, like they don't really get into the crux of what the overall story is going to be until a little bit.
Yeah, and then you don't even hit any of like the really serious, like his serious side until episode 5, and just a little like glimpses here and there, and it obviously ramps up as the show goes on. But whenever you do get those really serious moments, you're like, oh, this is like. Okay, this is like a lot deeper than I was expecting it to be.
Well, they very sneakily build the characters in front of you.
Yes.
So you have an idea of what are they like, how are they going to respond to what's occurring now.
Yeah.
But like they build up the relationships between Vash and Merle and Merrill and Millie
Merle.
Wolfwood.
Like they build those relationships up over what feels like quite a bit of time, honestly.
And then whenever the big moments hit, they hit.
They hit
really, really hard.
I will say too that like watching this with my wife, who has not seen it before, was not like didn't have any kind of like attachment to it like I did. I didn't see it until it hit Adult Swim.
Yeah.
So I was aware of it. I feel like I had seen the DVDs or VHS in like a Suncoast or FYE or something, but I did not own them. I didn't have friends that watched it because back then there was a lot of stuff like that. It's like, you can't tell what's good and what's not.
Yeah.
You get skunked on a few of them and you're like, what am I watching here? You know?
Yeah.
But once it came out, I watched all of it. So I had affinity for it from back in the day. I think for her, it's and this isn't an exact comparison, but kind of like with Evangelion, where like it starts off and you're like, oh, this is a cool show about, robots fighting monsters.
Doing the thing, yeah.
And then like it starts to take this turn where you're like, this is getting kind of serious and kind of
PTSD over here. Like, what's
kind
going
of
on?
depressing. What's that? And then by the end of the Evangelion, you're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It's so, this is not the same, but it's like.
It does have a similar kind of turn to where after a certain episode, you're like, oh, this is like really, really like heavy stuff.
Right. And so I think my wife was attracted to the comedy and the fun adventure. And then as it started to get into the serious stuff, it's not that she didn't like it. It was just, this requires a mental shift.
It does.
Of like, oh, it's this show. Because she made some comment after, I don't think it was episode 5. I want to say it was like a little deeper than that, like maybe 8 or somewhere in there. But it was like, she was like, gosh, Vash is so emo. And it was like, she was ready for another fun episode. Yeah. It was like, she needed that pressure release.
Vash definitely goes through the ringer for a lot of stuff.
Oh, for sure.
And definitely once you hit about the halfway point of the show, it is a very slippery slope to not stop watching.
Getting backstory and more understanding of who the character is.
And like, what he's been through. And
what's going on with the world. And yeah. So, Steven, how many times have you seen Trigun?
This might be, in its entirety, this is absolutely only the second time.
Okay, gotcha.
So I saw it in college freshman year and had not seen it since, I don't think. I've seen snippets and bits and pieces, but I've never sat down and been like, I'm watching Trigun tonight.
So what was your impression of it this time with fresh eyes?
I mean, it's much better than I remember being, and I was, one of those things. Andrew's familiar with this. When you sit me down and force me to watch something, you don't start out with my best impressions. You don't get the best shading of my views there.
But then once you overcome your serious downsides of a personality disorder that you have, then you get to actually engage with the material. Then
I tell you, it's fun. It's got some fluffy. It's got some not fluffy.
Right.
I think it has a couple of small problems that are pacing-esque related. There's some pieces. We'll get into it once we get beyond the spoiler wall.
Yeah, because there's certain things you can't really talk about until we can actually talk about spoilers.
It's such a whiplash change that you really can't. It's pure spoilers otherwise.
So the thing for me that just over the years, and I've always kind of noticed, and just as I've gotten older and rewatched it a couple times and watched shows from around the same time period, particularly Outlaw Star and Cowboy Bebop, the animation for this I think is probably worse than Outlaw Star.
It is. Well, so okay,
consistently it's probably worse.
I said
it feels lower budget.
In the Outlaw Star review, I went when you said it was worse, and I think what it is this. Outlaw Star, like on a scale of 1 to 10, hits tens, but then it goes down to like 4s. This is always a 6 to 7.
It's maybe like a 6.
Peaks. It peaks at an 8
there's a couple
or a 9,
of action episodes. There's a couple of action episodes where they dial it up to like a 7, I would say.
Yeah.
But then there's some dialogue scenes where it's down to like a 5. But it's always middle.
Consistent.
Yeah.
There were a couple of sequences somewhere in the middle of it where they did like wide shots of towns and stuff. And I was like, man, y'all didn't have like a little more money to like draw more than 2 people into this.
Right.
So, and like not as just, shapes.
So I know we always kind of joke around about like, oh, they're spending the budget because they have a high amount of like animation and all this other kind of stuff. Normally most animes generally have about the same budget. It's how the production team is managed.
Choose to place it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, but back to Outlaw Star, I think the reason to me it seemed like Outlaw Star suffered is because the jump was more noticeable.
Definitely.
Because especially like episode 8 on Outlaw Star was like a 10 on animation.
You're like, oh yeah.
And then the very next episode is like a 3, and you're like, oh my gosh, did you switch teams? Like who's animating this?
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
There is one later on, without giving away away what's happened. Like, well, spoiler. I
Talking
can't
about Trigun or Outlaw Star?
Trigun.
Okay,
Yeah. I can't
Just
give
making sure.
away where, like, what's happening exactly.
Yeah.
But it's a fight scene, and the same animation happens 3 or 4 times within like 4 minutes of it. And it's like, okay, guys, like, just do anything else. Give this character a different way to get around, please.
I definitely, because the thing is like most everyone stays on model, but the quality consistency is just, it's basically always a 5 or a 6, and it doesn't really variate. And even when they put the money and the time into it, it's like
it's
maybe
a moderate
7.
increase.
Yeah, it's like not a big difference.
I would say that there's a couple of animation moments that would be an 8 or a 9.
Now,
I think there are at least 2, maybe 3 moments that are reasonable. This was like, ooh.
I'll say this. There's a couple of action scenes, like when there's a scene where Vash is in a hallway and somebody shoots a rocket at him and he kicks it over his head.
Yeah.
There's little
there are
chunks
bits
where
in
you're
there.
like, ooh. Yeah. And I would say that the art direction is really good. Like the design of the characters, the design of the world.
Everybody passes the silhouette test.
For sure. Yeah.
Barrel's
They look
probably like one of my
fantastic.
favorite like 90s character designs. And she's super simple.
Yeah, but it works. You know what I mean? Okay, so
Well, it
really
also
quick.
helps that she's surrounded by very colorful characters around her.
Okay, so would you recommend it, Stephen?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think this is a core, holy trinity of space cowboy anime, and there's a lot of stuff in here that you're going to look at, and if you've watched more modern stuff, be like, oh, I kind of feel like where this either this is the prototype of it, or this is just a continuation of the line from back in the 80s or something like that.
Yeah, I would obviously recommend it. I would say if you can handle old animation, because especially like the cut that's on Hulu has the interpolated frames every now and then. They got a bad scan. It's off some
DVD
ratty DVD. Yeah, they need to have a better scan on Hulu for sure.
Woof.
And like, there's a lot of times where it pans and like it's like you have like the variable refresher.
It's like the tracking.
There's no
going
VSync on the scrolling, and I'm like, oof.
Actually, so you mentioned that also occurred in the version that I watched.
Oh, really?
Oh.
Yeah, and it's not like always noticeable, but yeah, some of the panning
Some of the
shots,
pans.
you're kind of like, and I wasn't sure if is that like an animation issue where the model didn't land
it's
quite
a
right in the
scan
background, or
it's how they scan the digital file in. But beyond that was a tangent. I would say if you're good with watching older anime, you're not like some younger person who's like, I need something crazy intense, like One Punch Man.
not crisp, not CGI. I don't want it.
It's a very good stair step into the world of the comedy breaks and that manic switch. Because I just my own experiences, I went from like very serious anime to Cowboy Bebop I saw before this, and then I'm trying to think what else would have been a big show I'd seen before this, but like this was my transition into like, oh, you can have anime where they have these comedy breaks literally right after like a lot of people died or something serious happened, and it works. And I was acclimated with it. So by the time I got to Full Metal and other stuff, I was all in, and I didn't have to have any kind of like training wheels for that kind of media. Would you recommend it, Andrew?
Absolutely. This is definitely one of those shows where if you are into, definitely like if you can watch older anime, because I know it's not for everyone, and that's totally fine. If you can definitely get into older anime, that kind of stuff, definitely watch it. It's a good show, and there's a lot of good story to it. The character beats are really well done. The music's incredible. I've been listening to it on repeat essentially for decades now. And it's hard to not recommend it.
The music is very good.
It's
we didn't really
good.
get into that.
Yeah, no, the music's
this part.
fantastic.
Some people believe in peace and love. Others just want to watch the world burn. We don't care what you believe in. There's something for everyone at spoilersintendedpodcast.com.
It's technically Love and Peace, actually.
Okay. Love and peace.
But we also have a Discord.
He just pushed glasses up onto his glasses. It was wild to
I have
see.
3 glasses on right now.
Yeah, on there you can find previous episodes. You can find links to our Patreon and to our Discord.
We have a Discord. You should come and join us. We love to talk about everything that we're doing, hobbies, what we're cooking, games we're playing,
Other
movies
stuff
we're
people
watching.
are watching, yeah.
Yep.
You should also check us out on Facebook and Instagram. We're there. We're socialing. It's media. Making posts. What we've watched, what's coming out, etc. Give us a follow.
And we have blasted our way past the spoiler wall.
I could listen to that all day.
Yeah, and that's just. And honestly, even if you said, "Oh, this is from a space western anime," if you just said, "Yeah, this is just a western," buy it.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's what it is.
It works. Great music. Okay, before we get into our spoiler-filled thoughts, let's hit a little bit of trivia here.
Trivia.
Okay. The series is named Trigun because Vash has 3 guns: his revolver, his prosthetic arm, which houses a gun, and his angel arm.
Yep.
That's 3 guns.
Yep.
I've never put that together until I looked at this trivia. Well, just because
seriously?
I've never sat there and go, I should count the guns he has. I've just like,
So
I don't want to call
it
it
goes
Trigun.
on
To 3. You didn't have to take your shoe off for it.
I never questioned why it's called Trigun past episode 1. And then by the time you get to the fact there's 3 guns, I'm in the story. I'm not worried about it.
I remember watching this a number of years back with a friend who'd never seen it before. And we got about halfway through the show.
Yeah.
And he was like, why is it called Trigun? He only has 1 gun.
Yeah.
And we were like the episode before he shows that he has the prosthetic arm gun.
Yeah.
And then I was like, yeah, you'll figure it out.
Weird. It's probably translation error. Don't worry about it.
I don't know.
It means something else in Japanese.
The black cat that appears in every episode of Trigun is called Kirinoko-sama, which means Lord Black Cat. The cat is a female and was a creation of one of Yasuhiro Naito's first mangas.
Oh.
I love the cat.
So I have multiple little mini figures of the cat around the house.
Nice. And every time I see one, I go, meow, meow.
I love the commitment to it being in every episode, and you never know where it's going to show up. It's its own little Easter egg.
Sometimes it's an evil cat. Sometimes it's a friendly cat.
Oh, sometimes it just goes flying by in the background or whatever.
I think my favorite black cat moment from the whole thing is when Wolfwood is playing chess. And he tries to
sneak
to
cheese?
Oh, yeah.
And the cat
puts the paw on him.
Just stops. It's like, wow.
I like it when they're throwing all the stuff out of, like the kids are throwing all the stuff at them, and the cat just goes flying by.
And it's one of those things where, like, when you get deep into an episode and you haven't seen the cat yet, I start like looking. Like,
it's like,
did I miss it? Where's the cat?
the cat?
The meow is always there. It's meow, meow.
Yeah. Yasuhiro Naito has gone on record to say that English is the language actually spoken on the planet Gunsmoke.
Oh, interesting.
Those of us who watch the dub are watching it right.
I have words about the dub.
Andrew's mad.
For unknown reasons, the anime contains various fictional units of measurement. The most prominent are
weird.
Aisles
instead of miles, yars instead of yards, and double dollars instead of dollars.
Yeah.
Okay, so I will say,
I thought it was a translation thing when I was growing up.
I did too. Aisles and yars, I'll allow. Double dollars is the most annoying currency I've ever heard of in my life.
Well, because I kept thinking, like, so do dollars exist? Or are they all double dollars?
Version of the dollar?
Yeah, like, do we have single dollars and double dollars? Like, is this a difference? Like,
Yeah, so it's like, if I gave you 10 double dollars, could I give you 20 regular dollars?
yeah. No, it's...
How does this work?
It's so annoying because every time they're like the 60 billion double dollar. Oh, come on, just get. You don't have to say double, just say dollars.
Knives and Vash are twins. The fact not only makes them both equal theoretically, but practically as well. In the beginning of the plot of the anime, Knives is shown to have the upper hand in combat against Vash, but as the plot progresses and the final fight between Vash and Knives comes up, Vash is shown to have more dominance in the scene, contributing to the fact that Vash has fought different powerful enemies, while Knives has simply commanded the powerful fighters to kill Vash.
Yeah.
That's what happens when management encounters.
Exactly. Thank you. I knew this was going to be a management takedown. Now let's move on to capitalism. No, okay. So let's get into our thoughts on the anime. Spoilers are free.
Abound.
Spoilers are free.
Yeah. So what's your take on just the general twist that happens? Because obviously, like, it's pretty sci-fi-esque.
Meaning which twist specifically?
That he's basically a 150-year-old alien.
The flashback
Got it.
episode.
Yeah.
Really.
So I'm trying to remember what it was like the first time I saw it.
Confusing.
Because I've
Because you
seen
know
it.
the twist now.
I know the twist
Yeah.
now, so I'm already ready for it. So I'm trying to remember back in 2003 how I would have felt when I saw that for the first time. I want to say I liked it. I want to say I was like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
I didn't see this coming. And then you start to realize that, like, you know, him and Knives are plants, basically, or whatever those, what are those beings called again?
Yeah, they're in the plants.
Yeah, they're called plants too. I think actually.
Yeah.
But either way, they are superhuman individuals.
For sure.
But they're not human though.
Well,
But like,
yeah,
up
they're
until that
humanoid.
point,
There we go.
you still can get the idea that he's not just a good gunslinger. There's
Yeah.
something else going on.
He physically
you know.
dodges bullets in basically everything, or either
Right.
dodges them or causes them to miss him.
Yeah.
Debatable.
But I guess theoretically, you could just write that off as like anime protagonist stuff. of,
Well,
like,
so-
He's like the ultimate plot armor.
So I'll actually move. I'll reference a more recent anime called Licorice Recoil, where one of the main characters, she basically has the ability to just read muscle movements.
I've watched about 5 episodes of that.
Yeah.
I stopped after that.
It's fine.
It's fine.
Yeah, it's
action's really good.
yeah. The action's great.
Yeah.
The show itself is fine, but
Quick mini review of this.
the
Nailed it.
interesting thing about it
Got
is
it.
that, like,
Got another episode in.
she can basically, like, she just basically monitors what you're doing with your hand, or like the gun in your hand, and
Yeah.
she can basically just kind of guess when you're going to actually pull the trigger and all this other kind of stuff.
but like he runs through hails of bullets
No,
being
I mean,
fired by
that's a
multiple
whole
guys with
different
AKs.
thing.
Like,
That's-
this is supernatural.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, watching it again, I do like that twist. I think that
I think it's fantastic.
It's a very creative way to, like, it explains so much, especially once you've seen the full story of like where they're gonna go and that kind of stuff. Because I really wish I could watch this with just like fresh, like
Yeah,
there should be a
like-
So what's funny is I was borderline watching this fresh.
Right. So
and
how
the
did you feel about it?
The first several episodes, I was like, okay, I know that at some point this show just kind of steps off a cliff and then rises up to 10,000. It's like, but where? I don't know what is. Oh, here we go. Okay. Children of the Corn. That's right. That's right.
That's right. Yeah.
Children of the Corn.
Oh, you never seen Children of the Corn?
No.
You wouldn't like it.
You would hate it.
It's
Children of the
bunch
Corn.
of creepy
Bunch of creepy kids.
telekinetic psychic
Oh,
kids.
okay. So basically, episode 12, Diablo. Whenever Legato gets introduced.
Yeah.
Well, it's not just Legato. It's literally when Knives is going around the ship.
Oh,
convincing them
yeah.
yeah. That's that. Like it's they have no inhibition. So like the kids just take everything as literally and as far as they can, and like they have.
Yeah.
They're actually capable of doing horrible things, and they just do horrible things.
Yeah,
Ugh.
but I do like the dichotomy of having basically two sides of the same coin, essentially, where you have someone that's super empathetic and someone that has absolutely no empathy at all.
Right. Yeah.
And
You know, Acolyte was taking notes. You're like twins, eh? You say one good, one evil.
except they both have empathy at the end. It doesn't matter.
we could water this down. Hold on. Where's my
We can't have our Disney characters kill people, so now they just have to be kind of like,
Wait, oh, I got it. What if they both have a little bit of empathy and both of them have a little bit of no empathy? Oh,
What if the empathy is turned up to? Wait a minute. Hold on.
wait a minute.
Yeah.
Gold,
Now
Jerry,
we're
gold.
cooking. So, for me, like there's a few moments throughout the story that are kind of frustrating, and they're not like deal breakers by any means, but it's just stuff that I wish there was more, and there could be in the manga because I've never read the manga.
So apparently because I've never read the manga either.
Yeah.
It is vastly different than what
Really?
the show
Okay.
is. Yes.
Yeah,
I have
two totally different
started-
stories supposedly, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. Like
Okay.
they should be considered kind of like the Ghost in the Shell in the movie.
Okay, so
where
it's
it's very
completely-
just totally different.
Gotcha. Because like Legato,
Yeah.
what's his whole deal?
He doesn't like humanity. He's a
where-
nihilist.
Where did he come from? How does he have psychic
doesn't matter.
powers?
He's
It doesn't matter,
No,
but it's like
well,
no,
the
the
reason why he has
powers are
powers
explained.
from
the
Vash's
arm?
arm.
He has
Okay.
Vash's arm. It's
Got
also, I assumed, why they could communicate telepathically when they
Yes.
first
so
encountered
I
each
always
other. He's got a
understood
connection.
the arm is like that's how he can control Vash, but I didn't realize the arm is how he controlled everyone else.
Yes.
Okay,
Because obviously, clearly, Knives can do it too. He just doesn't.
gotcha. See, I never read it that way, but
Yeah.
I mean, he definitely can.
I'm not saying you're wrong.
Yeah.
I'm just saying interesting. Okay, but
No,
like,
we're saying you're
I mean,
wrong.
Yeah.
Knives can apparently create black holes, so I don't know.
yeah, that's a gnarly scene right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, that's woo, we could crank that bad boy up.
Yeah.
He should have used that against Vash, probably.
Yeah, it would have been smart play.
Yeah, and so that's another level of like the frustration is just that I like this world so much is I want to know more. A
little bit more, yeah.
Like, so how did
I
you
would-
make that black
I would
hole?
want more pieces to
Well,
stretch
so
this out.
that's the thing.
further.
I think that it kind of like edges on the border of like stuff that needs to be explained to stuff that just needs to be accepted.
Yeah.
Well,
right.
it's also one of those things too where sometimes when you just have a little bit of shading to the sides of it, it's compelling because there's some mystery there.
Yeah.
And if they actually like lay down and structure that all the way out, you'd be like, yeah, I don't care anymore. This isn't interesting.
Yeah, no.
Right? Like you always
It's
run into that
midichlorians.
issue.
No.
Yeah,
Yeah, because we don't need to know like how this dude makes puppets and controls them
Right.
from we don't
Yeah.
need to know
like,
any
why,
of this
why
kind
is
of
the
weird magic
Nebraska
stuff.
family, half pituitary gland disorders and half not?
Yeah.
Just don't worry about it.
Yeah,
You know,
because
it is.
there's a lot of questions.
There's a lot
there,
of
but-
things that are kind of like left on. Yeah. So it is. You can spiral down a whole But the ending with knives, right? Like I like the fight, and I love that Vash kind of like the episode where he has to shoot Legato. Holy cow!
oh, man.
Holy cow!
And the only reason it hits is because throughout we've been seeing so much of who Vash is, and
Right.
we know if he pulls this trigger, this is one of those like it hurts me more than it hurts you, right?
100%. Yeah.
Well, because
That dude wants to die.
'cause
Vash
that's the
doesn't
thing.
want to kill him.
Yeah.
The entire show is about that episode.
It really is.
Yeah, it has I mean, obviously the conflict with knives is like the end cap, but it is about the choice that he has
It
to
is,
make.
right, yes.
But like almost the real villain is more Legato than it is
Yes.
Knives.
Almost.
Because we get way more of Legato than we ever do of Knives.
Yeah, yeah.
Knives
Minus
is
the
just the
flashback.
big bad guy at the end.
Right.
But he's
Like-
just the boss that has to be overcome.
And I think that's my not frustration, but that is a every time I watch it and I get to the end, I'm always met with the same. Especially after it's over and he comes into town and he's got knives over his shoulder. I'm like, what is your game plan when he
what
wakes
are you-
up?
yeah, like, what are you gonna do?
You're bringing him into town where there's innocent people. Is he going to
Does
wake
he
up?
lose his powers? Like,
Is he going to be like, you got me? This has been like 100 and ever how many year
Yeah.
chess game we've been playing. Like what's the, like, I wanted a little bit more closure there just to like give
It
me
was
something
very,
to go
it was
on.
very anime and like Japanese storytelling where it ends and you're like, hold on now.
But did this
In, like-
really end?
In like
Yeah.
20 hours, this is still a huge problem.
Well, and that was my wife, because she's never made it all the way to the end to this viewing.
I am super ready to hear that out of Lauren when she finally hits the end. What?
Yeah, she was like, so wait.
well, yeah, because
What, is she? I had told her about Trigun Badlands
Badland Rebel.
Rumble, and she's like, "Do they finish the story
No.
in that?" And I go, "No. That takes place in the middle of
Yeah,
all
it's
this.
just a movie, yeah.
it's just a movie.
movie's
That's
good.
That's a very.
I still haven't watched it.
Oh, it's
It's
good.
on my
It's
list.
definitely worth
typical
watching.
Yeah.
Anime movie where it's this is a show and we have a movie. You're like, where's this canonically? Where's this stuff? It's
Doesn't
somewhere in the
matter.
middle.
Yeah.
somewhere in the
Middle-ish.
middle.
We
Don't
needed to get
sweat it.
all the characters that didn't die or that did die back in there because
Yeah,
they're marketable.
Everybody love this guy. We got to
Yeah.
bring him back.
Everyone loves Wolfwood.
Speaking of, that might be my favorite scene in the show is Wolfwood's death.
Honestly,
holy
it's
moly,
incredible.
it always hits because you love Wolfwood as a character just because he's really well designed.
He's fun.
He's fun. He's layered and interesting. Where you're kind of like,
well, he has a code.
yeah,
And I
And you,
like
don't, you don't know you don't get to see, like he doesn't sit down next to you
and
and say,
exposit.
I do
No.
this and I don't
Yeah.
do that. And yeah.
but you,
you
pick
get
up
the-
on it. But then he has no problem killing, and he's a man of the cloth right next to Vash, who, it's just such a weird dichotomy that.
But the thing that I love about it too, and I think the reason why that episode is so good,
Yeah.
is because he finally makes the decision not to kill someone, and that's what kills him.
That's what kills. Yeah, and for me, it's that episode and where he has to kill Legato are the two inflection points of the show where I'm like, oh, this is
so for
really,
me.
really good.
It's the Wolfwood's death episode, then Legato, or so Paradise Sin, and then Living Through, the one right after it, where basically he's coming to terms with the fact that he had to kill someone.
Yeah.
and then Meryl is having to go
then
through
he just
this
straight
whole arc to try and
trauma
basically
dumps on Meryl.
Oh man,
We're gonna stand in the hallway for 6 hours while you tell your life story. Like what?
This time through, because every other time I've watched it, I've always liked Meryl as a character, but I've never been like really like on her, I'm not gonna say not on her side, but like been like really like rooting for
You
her.
haven't been like shipping them hard.
This time it hit me really hard going. Maybe it's just
Well,
because
I mean,
I'm married.
your
I'm
haircut
older.
is kind of like Meryl's right now.
Oh, wow, thanks.
Spicy. Haircut or lack thereof.
Were you wearing like a little cape shawl while you were watching? I get it with her all of a sudden. I don't know what's going on.
But the two moments when, like, right at the beginning of the episode, whenever she gives him the soup and then she immediately like goes back into defense mode and walks out of the room,
scoots
and
out of the room.
She hears him like crying to himself, and I'm like, that hurts. And then whenever they're sitting on the cliff, like the night before he gets dragged around town, I'm like, man, this just absolutely destroys me.
So I had a similar reaction in that, like, in previous rewatches, that stuff has been like fine. This time through, especially the cliff, I was like, oh man, I don't remember this like
hitting as hard.
See, like that hit. I think Millie's trauma hits hard because in some ways
I love Millie
her
so much in
trauma
this
is
whole
almost
show.
kind of not ignored, but she's so able to like disassociate where she just puts it down and says we have to go kind of thing.
That it's
and
more
just like,
troubling.
You feel so badly for her.
Yeah.
Well, because if anything, she got the happy ending where her and Wolfwood actually got together,
right? Yeah,
but
and then immediately stops being a happy ending. Yeah,
Millie, just as a character though, I love her so much because
she's the voice of reason.
She's a great foil,
but she also like when she blows up into a place and just blasts a couple of dudes with that big gun, and she's like, "We're here to stop everything." And you're like, "This is incredible."
The fact that actual weapon and its usage is so much more useful than Meryl's Derringers.
I meant, but I'll say this: the cape full of Derringers gets only pulled out really like that one time.
It was
awesome.
once.
I was like, that rule, do it again.
They animated it once, and we were like, we can't afford to do it again.
I'm pretty sure they do it in Badlands Rumble.
Okay, good. They need to. I got to watch that now because I'm like, man. But my wife, so we and we can get back to Trigun, but we watched a little bit of Trigun Stampede.
Oh yeah.
Because I was like, I just want to show you, the new one.
Yeah.
So I showed her the Nebraska Family episode, Heart Puncher, of that one or whatever, and immediately she's like, I don't care for this. And I was like, hold on. So it starts to go, and the guy is talking to Vash, and she's like, the reporter dude, the old alcoholic guy. She's like, who's this? What's going on? I go, there's no Millie. She goes, I'm out. Turn it off. She was like, because Millie was like one of her favorite characters.
I didn't realize that they didn't have Millie.
No,
there's no Millie.
No Millie.
That's terrible.
No, so Meryl's in it, but she's basically like the young gun reporter.
She's a reporter. Yeah,
that's with the grizzled old man.
Yeah,
that's just following Vash around. It's
and
not.
who put that to paper and said I'm making?
I don't know. I haven't watched all of.
I've only watched
Stampede.
the first couple episodes.
Okay,
I'm not going to watch it just based on this.
Yeah,
but like for me, it's the setup that they are from an insurance agency and he's a human disaster is the perfect like.
love it.
It's
It's so much
It's
fun.
such a goofy from left field thing where they're like they show up. You're like, so are y'all bounty hunters too? Like, are we all after this? No, you're part of the from the insurance agency.
Bernardelli Insurance
I'm sorry,
Agency.
what?
But
They're always bringing donuts.
Yeah, well, it's funny too because it's such like clearly like it's just such a bureaucratic thing of like just send these two desk jockeys to go and just like watch over this guy that's destroying cities. Sure.
Yeah, why not?
So I do think kind of looping back around because I mentioned the acolyte earlier in this. I think I have a bit of a similar complaint here where I wish that some of that flashback episode had been not that it was broken up and didn't exist, but that pieces of it had been dropped in some of the earlier episodes as like some of him having like either he wakes up in a cold sweat and we have a little bit of that or something like that because you're going to correct me on what episode number is 6, 7. I don't remember. In the first plant that we're introduced to 6. There we go. You have a moment where it's like, well, so like, how do we like goofy our way out of this one? And then he goes full serious and like controls the plant, and you're like, I'm sorry, what?
Yeah,
something more happening here. And then you get some of it with the girl where she's like, you killed my family. Like I was in the city when it happened. And it's like, but you were a little kid. And he's like, okay, hold on. He's not aging right. Something's off here.
I think that's what I like about the show though, is they trickle the information about him so well.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I like that little bit of trickle, but I wish we had gotten just a little bit more where it wasn't obvious that he was on a spaceship or whatever. Just a few bit where it's like, because you get a little bit of him and Rim, right? And you don't really get introduced
You're
to her
like, okay, who's this girl?
Yeah, like who is this chick? Like, are we going back to her? Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And I wish we'd gotten just a little bit more of like him and Knives as kids, like either them with like sitting in the recreation room.
Yeah.
Or maybe even like a little bit of like the butterfly and the spider, like just a little bit of their interplay before we got the full reveal. So that you had a few more breadcrumbs of this isn't just an episodic, goofy Western where then when it starts to really hit, you're like, whoa, like this goes back to, and when he did, it connects. Oh no. Like,
or even if they could have done that thing where like some shows will do where like the first scene of the show is like 5 minutes from when they were kids,
you just
and then it comes back, and you forget like episode 8 in. You're like, that was the dude.
That was the thing.
Yeah, that's such an anime thing where it starts out. It's like two kids running around. They're like, you have to get up, wake up, and they get up. You're like, wait, what? Who are you? Oh crap.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. Where are we now?
So I know like whenever you watch a lot of these like animes or just shows in general, particularly stuff that has like, I'll say gunslingers, right? With quotation marks. Most of the shows don't really count how many shots have been actually fired from the gun and before they reload. They actually do in this show like 9 out of 10 times.
They're very, very good about.
He shot 5.
He has 6 shots. He only they do it with the Nebraska family. He only shot 5. They do it at another point, but like the final fight where they each have the one bullet and they're both clicking. And
that's so intense. But like someone like Wolfwood's gun with the cross gun, which is such a cool gun.
That's whatever.
Yeah, that's like, just whatever.
No, but it's
question mark number of bullets.
Just because he has a revolver, they actually do count the shots.
Count it. Yeah.
But they do at least with his cross gun. It's not just an unlimited weld.
No.
He only gets so many rockets. It runs out in the front, and it causes them to fail what they're trying to do or whatnot.
Yeah, and the cross gun is so cool.
Like, it's so freaking impractical.
I want to say that was like one of the first pieces of imagery that I remember from like the back of the VHS or DVD box that like when I finally started watching the show, I was like, wait, where's the cross thing? And then when Wolfwood comes in, you're like, oh yeah.
Well, like, it's such an iconic piece. You know, I mean, even nowadays, you walk around in a con. Someone's got that. Someone's carrying one of those around.
So, what did you guys think about, or what do you continue to think, Andrew and Steven? What did you think on this rewatch about the first time you see the angel arm go off?
Well, we're back to the bit where we're like, whoa, okay, something way more is going on. But I do like there, and also in the final fight, you get some of that Akira flavoring.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, because not just the explosion effect.
Well, just the styling of it.
But also the body horror-esque of it.
Liquid metal, but segmented, scaly.
But it's also like it's still, you can tell that it was flesh. Yeah. And like in the final fight when Knives has both guns and he's got like the little bit of feathers coming off and whatnot.
So I love whenever like he has the one gun, you're like, all right, yeah, Vash has got one of those, no big deal. And he gets both guns, you're like, oh, this is a problem.
This is a big deal.
Well, so I thought, and again, it's been a while since I did a complete rewatch. I had this moment where I was like, oh, it'd be cool if like Knives shoots both of them and they just cancel him out. Because like that's his undoing is that he thought I'm gonna because they're both the two different charges are canceling each other out.
Very big about like the light and the dark.
They are, and I was like, it's the total dichotomy of Vash is I'm not gonna do any aggression. Yeah, I'm gonna do double, and it like that's what his undoing is.
Yeah,
but that
would have been poetic.
But I also
that was me in my head.
But with the poetic when they do cancel the shot when they each have the gun and you get the big swirl of power and you get a little yin yang in there.
Yeah.
They're having a good day when they're like, put a little swirl. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, there it is.
So I love just in that little fight right at the beginning, whenever Knives takes out the bullets and he just throws them over Vash and just shoots them and they just explode.
Well, also, like, they're pulling out all the stops. You know, like Vash puts his gun up and leaves a wire and runs so he can shoot it from one place and then shoot him with the prosthetic from another. Like the actual fights are not just, hey, we get straight up in each other's face, pull the trigger.
There's a lot of like cerebral.
They're thinking about how to get around this, and like the bit where they both have the gun on each other's heads.
Yeah,
and it's kind of almost a Matrix. Like I was wondering, like, are we gonna get one of those click? You're empty. You are too moments. Like, no, they each pop the chambers on each other, and it kicks the bullets out, and then they both get reduced to one.
Yeah. Well, no, it's every one of the fights, really, when you break it down, like the bigger ones.
Yeah.
Like are well choreographed, or they have some kind of an interesting twist, or there's some kind of a novel situation or environment going on.
It's not just brute force.
No.
Because like a lot of anime like this, right? If you had, like, the premise was Western gunslinger, man, we'd be whipping 2 guns out. No reloads, just go on down the line.
Yeah. So probably one of my favorite fights is when he was fighting against Monev the Gale, the first guns that shows up.
Oh yeah.
And he uses the bank vault door to basically shoot himself up, and he's like attached onto the side, and then he finally uses his prosthetic arm gun to get the edge.
And you get the reveal that he has the other gun.
Yeah.
That's such a good reveal too, because in like 3 episodes before that, when him and Wolfwood are like in the underground plant or whatever, and he gets out of the situation, you're like, well, how did that just happen?
Yeah.
But then you see the smoking on his arm, you're like, well, I don't know what that means.
Right.
Maybe he just grabbed the thing and just ripped it out. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, see, at the time, because we'd already have the reveal in the plant, it was like, okay, he has some control over machines. Maybe that's what the powers that go on here. Maybe that's what he was
He
controlling.
was like, oh no, he just got another gun.
No, he just was like, what if I have a gun literally up my sleeve?
I think too, the show does a really good job of like when you do have an episode that kind of feels like a bottle episode or kind of like its own standalone thing, like the one where the dude's hoarding all the water.
Oh yeah,
and there's like those. They have interesting characters, and it never fully breaks.
It never feels like it's filler.
It doesn't. No. It feels like a one-off, but it's
in
like
the process you're learning something about either Vash,
Meryl,
or Millie.
Yeah.
Like you're gaining something. I did kind of wish, right? So I was kind of almost wondering if towards the end, because again I cannot remember most of the show.
Yeah.
But towards the end, when we start seeing some of the more of the members of the Gun Ho gang show up, and if we see like a bunch of them at once, if it was going to be like, the neon guy rolls in, like all the friends we made along the way show up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like his own gang to fight them.
Oh yeah.
I was almost wondering, I was like, are we leaning this way? Because there's the bit where when he is declared the human
typhoon,
the human disaster, he's always and like you see some of the other characters.
He's the first humanity's act of God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Natural disaster is how it's done in the dub.
Oh, really? They say act of God.
Yeah, they say this is the first
Japanese
humanity natural disaster.
Oh, okay.
Or
human natural disaster.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
It's similar concept. But when they're like the broadcast is going out and it cuts to a bunch of these characters he's interacting with, and it includes Neon and some other people, and they're all kind of reacting negatively to this because they all know who he is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I almost was like, are we gonna have these people rolling in at the end here, like, or towards the end?
Yeah.
So I will say during that whole scene, whenever Meryl's like reading it off, like that hits whenever like, because now that like, well, they're not technically supposed to go and follow him anymore.
Yeah.
And she didn't even get to say goodbye, and obviously it left off where she was trying to just go kill herself essentially.
She's catching feelings.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, you never really get to see them get together.
That's
you don't have to though.
No, you don't have to because
you have to.
Well, because it definitely like. Not really on Vash's side, you don't really see a lot of that, but on her side, she definitely is interested in him.
For sure, yeah. Well, but you don't really get the feeling from Vash that he's like...
He's very ambivalent, and it probably doesn't help that, he's like 150 years old.
He's also... He's both an old child, but he's also he has the qualities in a lot of ways that I would expect in like fantasy when you say, ooh, a fairy or an elf, a long-lived fairy or elf who isn't human.
Yeah.
And like, do they have emotions and reactions? Yes, but are they human? No. So like, he has that to him, that quality of...
Yeah, he actually is very similar to like, I'll say like Freerin or...
Yeah.
In that kind of like time scale to where 10 years to him is basically nothing.
Right.
Yeah.
And like he's separate from the time scale of humans. He is separated from humanity, literally.
Yeah.
And he acts that way. So there's no guarantee that he's going to,
reciprocate.
Yeah.
I would say that like you see him make so many friends along the way with like the family that adopts him and calls him Eric's or whatever.
Yeah.
Eric.
That's a good episode.
And then
I like that episode.
like you see him form bonds and form relationships with people on a friendship level. You just never really see him.
You just don't know if there's...
Is there something more
Well,
to
even the one time that he actually gets hookers in his room, he just fakes to be asleep.
He fakes like he's sleeping. Yeah.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Because he's a 150-year-old virgin.
Well, I mean, probably.
It might be. After seeing, so my wife made a crack at some point when it was about 3/4 the way.
Yeah.
After we'd seen all the stuff with Rim, she's like, man, Rim really did a number on him, didn't she?
Oh, she did.
Oh boy, did she ever!
I was like, man.
She gave him some platitudes, and that was it.
She was like, he could have solved so many problems just by shooting people this whole way.
He took that in whole cloth, and it's never been touched since. And it's like,
Yeah.
buddy, sometimes you just got to pull the trigger.
Yeah.
Like,
Okay, would you rewatch it, Steven?
oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Andrew, I think you'd rewatch it.
come on,
Yeah,
what kind of
no
question is
question.
that?
No question.
I would obviously rewatch it. Does anybody have any other thoughts, final thoughts on Trigun?
Do we need a favorite scene?
We kind of touched on a lot of
Yeah,
the
we
big
can
ones.
touch on it. I'll probably. I mean,
Put a stamp on it. I want to hear what your favorite.
So
moment
mine is Wolfwood's death.
Okay.
What is yours, Steven?
Oh, don't go to me. Go to Andrew.
Andrew, what
Okay,
is yours?
so my favorite moment that I always come back to is the Hard Puncher episode, so episode 5,
Yeah.
where you get this kind of moment where he's in the dark bar, basically being held at gunpoint, and he's bounty hunters in aprons. I never thought I'd see this, and then basically he's like, I have to keep moving until I find him. We now know who that is, and then you go through the whole scene of the Nebraska family basically just goading him as he's like helping these people from the rubble.
Yeah.
And the first time he pulls the gun, I'm like, yeah, this is it
yeah.
right here.
Yeah, and because especially with that fight, like he just deflects the fist or whatever, and he's like,
Because it's pinpoint accuracy to just move it,
just enough.
move it.
And again, this is your first time realizing, like, oh, he's a complete pacifist. Like, it's not like he just, in another anime, he would just blow the dude away.
Oh yeah,
and it'd
one
be like-
shot, just
yeah.
shoot that guy out of the pocket or whatever he's saying.
But yeah, no, I love that episode just as a whole.
Yeah.
Because it really solidifies basically him as his character, because you get the full gamut of what he's capable emotionally to do.
Yeah.
And you get a really good example of how capable he is for being a gunman.
Well, it's a really good encapsulation of a lot of the show in one episode. That's why I think when I played the Trigun Stampede episode of Hard Puncher,
Yeah, it
for
just
Wife,
doesn't capture it.
She was like, nothing. This is doing like this is nothing like it. So, what's your favorite scene?
So I hesitate to call it a scene because it's really kind of an episode, and it's early
Yeah.
on, so you're gonna have to help me out with what the number is or whatever.
Whatever.
But it's the alcoholic gunsmith.
Oh, that's a great
yeah.
episode. Peacemaker.
Yes,
Yeah.
there we go.
Episode 4.
But his whole confrontation with the Vash, the Stampede,
Episode 3, excuse me. Yeah.
whichever one.
Yeah.
But like when he walks up and flattens their tire, it's like, oh no, you've got a flat tire. How are you
Yeah.
gonna get away? And like he is acting like he's gonna shoot it out with him. He's just got his finger in his pocket, and then the gunsmith comes into it as well.
Marlon,
yeah, and he's also faking it. Where he puts it to the guy's back or whatever. And he's like, yeah, I'll shoot you. He's like, yeah, one loaded.
Well, then I like whenever they run away and he's like, same gun. And then they both hold it up. That's a great little moment. And I really like the kind of idea. And it's honestly just a tragic episode in general. I think that's one of the better, like, quotation marks, bottle episodes that kind of show up.
It is very bottle episode, but
just because, like, you have this guy that wanted to help protect the town, and then his wife and kid get killed by a gun he made, which is just brutal on just that level. And then you have the whole character arc of obviously him being complete washout drunk, and then coming back full circle and
redeems himself by the end.
Man, that's a good episode.
yeah,
There's a lot
that's a
of
very good episode.
There's a lot of ground covered in 24 minutes. Right
there
there.
really is.
And it's really like 22 minutes.
22,
You
whatever.
gotta write the
Crazy.
intro and the outro.
There's
Yeah.
so many other shows, anime, live action, whatever, it doesn't matter, that have hour-long run times that do not get this level of
would
character
not-
development.
They would
No.
not give you this depth or this amount of feels in a couple, like a 3-episode arc. They just don't
crazy.
land like that. It's
Yeah.
like, how do you not just have, and I mean, for a lot of Trigun, it's not that it's a ton of dialogue. No one sits down and tells you what's going on.
No.
It's very
No one-
efficient in its storytelling.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it just flows and works. And it's a little frustrating to watch that, and then you come and watch something modern, and you're like, what's wrong with you people?
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that sounds about like all the time we've got here. Let's talk about our Patreon real quick before we go.
For just $1, the best way, $1 double dollar, the best way to support the show. If you like what you heard, if you like what we're talking about, you can listen to even more of it. That's right, just $1 gets you access to all of our bonus episodes,
All of it.
which are just like Trigun. We go straight from this kind of serious, in-depth discussion
To total
full on
ridiculousness.
comedy, goofiness. We get
Oh, yeah.
wacky with it.
We fight presidents, monarchs. We have conversations with ChatGPT in various capacities.
We proved that you should both fear AI and that AI will also not be taking over anything for a long time.
We've got intros to Gundam if you want to get into that.
Yep.
We've got anime.
Other look as an anime, yeah.
What was the anime starter kit where it's like
the anime starter kit. Then we also have, even just it has nothing to do with anime, but comfort food movies, which is a great episode.
We talk about martial arts too, right?
Yeah.
Different levels of martial arts.
we got a lot of good bonus episodes.
All kinds of good and interesting stuff in there, and you get access to all of that for just $1.
And it's the most direct way to support the podcast. We appreciate
keeps
all
the
of our
lights on.
patrons. Keeps the lights on.
And our existing patrons, a huge thanks to them. They're so brilliant and discerning,
Attractive.
smart,
They look really good in
well-dressed.
all clothes.
Yes.
Blanket statement, I'll say it.
Fashionable.
Whatever you're wearing, if you're a patron,
You look good in it.
you're
You look
pulling
good
it
in it.
off, okay?
You're rocking it.
No matter what, you're pulling it off. Okay, well, that sounds like about all the time we have. So as always, follow us on social, leave us a review wherever you're listening right now, and share us with a friend. Until next time, I'm Ryan,
I'm Andrew.
And I'm Steven.
and every spoiler was intended.